Hello everyone, this is the Promotory channel. I'm starting the assembly. The engine is a Volvo T-XII. The technical specifications are now on the screen. I've prepared the cylinder head. Now I'm going to work on the head. The block is still being machined. It should arrive in the next few days so I can work on the head. We will be replacing the guide bushings and the exhaust valve as well as the exhaust valves. The intake valves will stay as they are. We won't touch the bushings or the valves. I'll do the seat as usual. Make the working chamfer a bit narrower and lap each marked valve in place. I'm washing parts and preparing things as usual. I've prepared the rocker arm shaft and the camshaft is perfect with no issues. Just a reminder, the engine has 1.7 million kilometers and the camshaft is perfect. I've already prepared the intake valves. This is how they look after I clean them. Now I'm going to work on the pistons. We're keeping the old pistons. I've already prepared one piston as a test. Measured how the piston ring fits just to make sure there aren't any big gaps and so on. So one piston is ready. I realized that we can keep the old pistons. They're actually still in excellent condition. I've already removed the skirts, the piston skirt. Let me remind you, our pistons here are made of two parts. The piston crown is made separately from cast iron, and the piston skirt is also separate, made from aluminum. The skirts are over there in the wash. Now I'm going to remove the piston rings, clean these pistons, the piston crowns, and also remove the carbon buildup. I'll clean the grooves on the piston crown and the combustion chamber. I'll be preparing all of that, and right away I'll put on the new piston rings and install them on the connecting rods. The connecting rods have also just come back from repair. Basically I'll get everything ready so that the pistons and connecting rods are prepared. I'll install new bearings. So everything will be ready just to put it all into the engine later. That's it. So first I'll work on the pistons. Then, I don't know, maybe I'll work on the cylinder head. Or maybe I'll leave the cylinder head for later. Well, basically, as usual, we'll see as we go what order to do things in. I don't know yet. We've got a lot of work ahead. Let's get started. Piston connecting rod pin. I want to show that I have marks everywhere. Here you can see on the skirt 4 notches, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, the bottom of the piston, also 1, 2, 3, 4. And I also marked which direction it stands, so this mark is on the same side as before. Basically all the marks are on one side. But there's another thing here. You can't install it any other way. If you try to install it differently, it just won't fit. It gets misaligned like this, and it won't go in any further. So, you can't mix it up here. It can only be installed in one position, you see. 4. Also, the piston pin. Here I marked it with a green marker. I don't know how well you can see it on camera. 1, 2, 3, and here's the 4th one. This pin is exactly from this piston. And also there's a factory marker number 4 on the connecting rod. You can see it on the rod itself, on the connecting rod cap, and when I was disassembling I also put marks on the cap myself. So everything is marked, everything is in its place just like it was. So I took out the rings, the new rings. I opened up one new cylinder liner, measured the thermal clearances, and everything is perfect. Now I'm measuring the rest of the rings, and then I'll install the piston rings on the pistons. So I want to show that as usual. There are these marks on the rings with 23 symbol and an inscription. This inscription should be facing the piston crown. The piston crown is where the combustion chamber is, meaning it should face the cylinder head, and that's the case for all the rings. X-Kutsu. So let's say this is our top compression ring. It has a trapezoidal profile. This is our second compression ring, and it has a rectangular profile. But there's also a chamfer here, and we can also see some markings on the oil control ring. There's also an inscription. Next, I'm getting things ready. I unscrewed the plugs and caps of the oil channels on the crankshaft, and we can see that everything is clogged with this dry dirt. So now, well, I won't bother with picks here. I'll just drill through all this dirt, take it out. Then clean it with brushes, blow out the crankshaft itself. Also wash it in the washer, blow it out again. Then polish it on the machine. So I'm working on the crankshaft. This is an initial cleaning of the oil channels. Now, I'm also cleaning the entire crankshaft in the steel journal. Then, the shaft goes to the jet washer. Then, I blow everything out again, clean everything again with clean brushes, and then I polish the crankshaft. And only after that will the shaft be installed in the engine. So the block has arrived from the machining work, the main bearing seats were machined, and that's basically it. The cylinder head mating surface is in good condition, and the liner seat is also in good condition. So what I'm going to do now is remove the caps, blow out and clean all the channels as much as possible with brushes, special fluid air, and so on. Next, from the top here, I remove the largest rust spots, like here as you can see. I remove some of it layer by layer in certain places, basically preparing the block. Since the engine will be painted, I still need to remove as much of this rust as possible. Well, roughly to this condition. And then I start the assembly. I install the oil injectors, put in the sleeves, apaksodu, install the crankshaft, basically everything step by step. Now, I also need to open and check the relief valve. It's installed right here. You can see it. There's an aluminum plug for a wrench on this side. It's 50, I think, or 55, I don't remember exactly. Since there were no problems with oil pressure in the engine, the bearing is in excellent condition. And when I started it hot, I checked and the pressure was excellent. We're not changing the oil system, the oil pump remains the same. Also, we won't touch the relief valve. I'll just clean it, blow it out, inspect it, and put everything back in place. So that's the scope of work we have. Let's go. So the block is ready. I spent half a day scrubbing, scraping and blowing it out. In general, everything is completely ready. We can start assembling. So I prepared the oil nozzles, washed them all, blew them out and checked them several times. These are the plugs for the oil channels. They screw in from the head side. And also, as I said, I unscrewed the relief valve, checked it as well, washed everything and got it ready. These are the main bearing caps and these are the bearing shells. And the crankshaft, as I already showed, I washed it, cleaned out the channels, opened them up. I blew them out, washed and cleaned them, installed the plugs with thread locker and made sure that each plug is tightened. So the crankshaft is also ready. Now I'm going to install the oil jets, the pressure relief valve and these plugs, and then we'll move on to installing the crankshaft. Let's go. Let's go. To be continued. To be continued. I installed the sleeves without the rubber seals for now, just to check their protrusion above the cylinder block. So here this part has a kind of profile, like a semicircle, and the top should protrude above the block. From 14 to 20 hundredths, well, basically about 2/10. So I set the dial indicator. The block is our 0 point. We see the peaks at 17 hundredths, then the block is our 0 point. The peak, well, 17, 18, give or take. Then the block 0. The peak is about 16, 17 hundredths, 0. Well, the peak is also about 16. I took measurements. The protrusion is about 16 or 17 hundredths, which is the limit. So I take out the sleeves, install the rubber rings, and then finally install the sleeves and the block. We installed one thin rubber ring on each sleeve, and here at the top 3 rubber rings are installed into the block. We see that there are 2 black ones and 1 purple one. The purple one is placed closer to the oil, meaning it's oil resistant. So it goes at the very bottom, closer to the oil pan. But these 2, the middle and the top ones, are closer to the water jacket. To be continued. The crankshaft is tightened, the pistons are installed, the connecting rod bolts are also tightened. So everything is done according to the crankshaft and piston assembly. I'm all done here. Next, I'll be installing the front cover, or rather, first the intermediate plate, then all the gears, and then the front cover. So everything is ready here. I degreased, cleaned, checked the threads, already applied sealant, a thin anaerobic layer, prepared the plate itself, intermediate plate, and prepared the bolts. Here we have an oil nozzle on the gear. Lubrication goes through this channel, and there are 4 holes that spray oil onto the gears. And I also prepared these guide bolts. This plate is installed without guides, and then the guides go into the cover itself, like this, through these holes. But to install it in relation to the block, you need these special guides. And I'm immediately installing all the intermediate gears. They're already prepared and cleaned. I installed everything in its place, didn't mix anything up. So here we have the washer that goes to the block, then the gear itself, the washer's axis that goes from the block to, and the plate that holds everything in place. So everything is in its place. I didn't mix anything up. I washed everything separately, each even putu. I tightened everything with bolts, put on the nut. And now I'm installing these 5 gears. Then we'll see what we can do with this intermediate one. We have a new shaft and a new gear here. Alright, so I'm installing the gears And I want to say that the last Volvo engine I worked on, the D-XII, was a bit different. In that spot there was one large intermediate gear, but here we see two small ones. And on that engine you could shift the gear axis relative to the block, to the engine. Yeah, you could move it. You had to adjust the clearance. I used a feeler gauge to set the gap. Here it's a bit different. Here each axis has a guide, so it fits exactly in its place and you can't move it in any direction. In this case, on this engine, I think you can't machine the head, meaning if you grind it, it will sit lower and there might not be any clearance in the gear here. On that engine, I came to the conclusion that it's possible to grind the heads. There's some kind of adjustment there. On this engine, as we can see, there's no adjustment. Now, without the camera, I'll tighten everything and we can see clearances everywhere. Basically, I took the pump apart to take a look. I just want to see what's inside and how it works. Overall, everything is in working condition. Of course, it's been used a lot, so there are some scratches and a bit of wear here and there. As I mentioned earlier, there were no problems with the pressure, so we decided to use the old pump. I think this is the right decision, and I believe it's the right way to go. So now I'll clean everything, put it back together. Then I'll install the pump and we'll work on this intermediate gear and take a look at it. So I've already installed the pump, assembled it, lubricated everything inside, and now it rotates smoothly. So I replaced the seals on the intake, the one with the rubber seal, and also on the oil line outlet. I replaced the seals here too. I put thread locker on all the bolts, tightened everything, and also tightened this nut here. So I was working on the shaft and the gear, and here's what I got. The new gear comes with a repair bushing, which means the inner diameter of the bushing is 0.5 millimeter smaller. I machined a mandrel like this on the lathe. It fit tightly here and also by diameter here. I clamped it in a cylindrical grinding machine and ground it down to size. I don't remember exactly, I think it was 69.7, and I machined the gear on the lathe to a size of 69.75. Well, that is, I made a small gap for the oil. That's it, basically. Everything turned out great, everything's good. Now, I'm going to install the shaft back in place. This centers the shaft, and it also centers the oil pump in relation to the main cap. Basically, this centering pin goes through 3 holes at once. So, I'm installing this intermediate gear. Then I close up these washers that hold everything. There are also 2 more washers for the intermediate gears that go onto the head, and I also install the hub. I'm also installing this counterweight, tightening it, and then I'll be closing up the front and rear covers. So this is how the shaft is installed. You can see there's an oil channel that lines up with this channel coming directly from the pump, as I mentioned, and there's a drilling here. Oil is already being supplied to the gear itself. Next I will install the front and rear covers. I have prepared the covers, washed and cleaned them, prepared the bolts. These are the bolts from the cover, and this is the plate, the sound insulation. At first I didn't want to remove it. I washed everything and put the cover on. Here it is. Basically the seal is made with sealant. The cover was on, and from this spot black oil, diesel and dirty water from washing were leaking out. Everything got clogged up under it, so all that got between the cover and this plate. So I decided to take it off, clean everything and degrease it. This is our flywheel housing, the rear cover and the bolts from it. I'm not installing the oil seal yet. After the cover is installed on the engine, I'll install the oil seal. That is, I'll fit it onto the crankshaft so it doesn't bend or tear, and then I'll carefully seat it into the flywheel housing, clutch basket and disc. We're keeping the old one. The customer said there were no problems with the clutch and asked me if it was possible to keep everything old. I said, well, basically everything is in working condition, so if there were no issues, we'll keep it. So I also washed and cleaned everything, prepared the bolts and flywheel mount, and now I'll install the new flywheel bearing as well. closing the oil pan now. I double checked everything. The numbers on the main bearing caps are in order and the connecting rod numbers match with their caps. I also checked how the oil nozzle fits into the groove on the piston, so basically I double checked everything again. I blew it out with compressed air and I'm now closing the oil pan, which has been washed and cleaned several times with degreaser. Here is this seam, here's one, here's another. It's multi-layered here and basically there's metal shavings, dirt and old oil in there. Basically I poured in degreaser 3 times, rinsed it, blew it out and did again. Everything kept coming out of there. In short, I washed it all several times. So now I'm putting on the gasket. No matter what anyone says, I'm putting this gasket on again and again. Nothing works. It's all unclear how to do it. Basically, the gasket on the Volvo oil pan is just a real pain. I don't know who came up with this idea.